What's going on, everyone? It's Mike back again. Everton have just lost 1-0 to Blackburn Rovers in a pre-season friendly at, is it still Ewood Park? I didn't check. Yeah. Do you know what? I've learned something today. I know it sounds really silly, but you go into these pre-season games, and because you're the Premier League team, you think, yeah, you're going to smash everyone you play, and you really don't appreciate fitness levels. It was poor today, to be honest. It was poor, and I get it. I do get it. The more you look at the game, I think Blackburn started, I think, a week, if not more, before us. But there's so much work to do in that team. Nathan Patterson gave the ball away 3 times in the first 5 minutes. He was really poor as well. He did get better towards the half. Some people are blaming him for the goal. There's absolutely no way it's his fault for a goal. He has to step across into the other lad because one of the centre halves, I didn't even check who it was, is literally in no man's land. So of course his man's spare at the back post because he's had to leave him. See, if he doesn't leave him, the middle man scores. So it doesn't matter which one. Patterson's stuck in the middle. So, that's my opinion anyway. If you think Patterson's at fault, then yeah, whatever. But there was a lot of performances that clearly players aren't fit or not quite as sharp as they would be. I think Blackburn really come out the traps. To be honest, I thought both teams come out the traps first 3 or 4 minutes. I thought the intensity was really good, but we just died off really quickly. And it was interesting, to be honest. It was interesting to see how we coped. The goal we conceded, yet again, was a poor goal. Similar issue, where it's almost like either a centre midfielder's not coming in, but it's a free person yet again. I know against Accrington it was from a corner, but it's the same ideology. You're leaving people on their own, and that's never a good thing on a football pitch. So yeah, really poor. I didn't think anyone was particularly brilliant. I thought Beto yet again tried, and I can't necessarily fault Beto, to be honest. I thought he ran a lot. He put himself about. He was challenging the back four of Blackburn. He did a better job than Yusuf Chamiti did for the 20 minutes that he was on the pitch. We didn't see so much spark from the young lads. Yeah, I think the one thing I definitely take away from that game is I think Harrison Armstrong can definitely stay with the first team this season. As to whether he's good enough to consistently start Premier League games, I'm on the fence. But he's definitely good enough to play in the first team. And there is definitely a player there. From the moment he comes on, within, I think, a minute or two, he plays a reverse ball round the corner into Dwight McNeil, who yet again was an extra touch away. I didn't think Dwight had a particularly bad game, but he kept on taking so many extra touches that he didn't need to. I also thought, and I don't know if people will agree with this, but I also thought that when you've got this midfield of Garner and James Garner and Alcaraz, there's such a big gap in that 8 spot because Jimmy Garner and Ladrissa Garner-Guy seem to play in 6s, but Alcaraz was playing in a 10 or alongside Beto at times, and that gap in the middle of the park was huge today. It was huge. It was so huge that it allowed Travers, Cantwell to get on the ball and to pick their play. And Everton, in my mind, if Everton are going to step forward and be a better team this season, that needs to stop happening. You need a definite 8, someone that can do both bits. And I do think that Harrison Armstrong is that player. I do think he is an 8 because he will trap back, and I'm sure in time he's going to have goals in his locker. But yeah, I wasn't blown away today. I wasn't blown away. I wasn't enamoured. I think it's clearly obvious that this team need players. And look, it's pre-season, but I think David Moyes pretty much today played as much of a first team as he could. Travers is the number 2. Everyone else, you could legitimately see playing at a Premier League game. Maybe not Patterson, but you could see everyone else playing. And the bench, again, it's pre-season, so it doesn't matter. But the bench didn't really have any people on there that you go, he's going to win you a game in the Premier League. And that's what Everton have got to do. The strength and depth just isn't there. And, we're going to be going into America. And me and John have had this debate, and we've been very open and honest about it. John's been more in the camp of he wanted players done, dusted and everything. And I get it to a degree, I get it. And I was prepared to give the team time and give these new coaching setup time. But I do feel like we're behind in our player recruitment now. Because I'm assuming we're going to go off to America. We'll probably have a day's break and then we go off to America Monday, Tuesday. For me, we look short. And I know it's pre-season and you do want some of the younger lads to have a go and to see how they can perform and all of those, and you want the opportunity. So I'm not against any of that. But when you actually do look at this squad, that was it today. Like that was it. So, we need our players back. Tarkowski's injured, fair enough, but we need him back. If Douglas Luiz is happening, there's so many different rumours online, but if it's happening, it needs to happen quickly. And that was obvious. I don't actually know if Douglas Luiz is the answer, because I would say Douglas Luiz is a 6. And based on what I've just watched, and based on last season, I still think we need an 8. I still think we need a ball-carrying midfielder, and I don't think Douglas Luiz is that player. He's a very good player, and I'll be happy that we sign him. But I think we need an 8. And unless you're going to convert someone in this team to do that, I don't think it works. And you've got Alcaraz in that position, who today, he didn't do much for me today, Alcaraz, but that's fine. This was his first start in pre-season, so... But I need to identify where these players are going to play. Because in my mind, I'd almost have a 6, an 8, a 10, 2 wingers and a striker. I wish I could have drew that out, but it looks like an arrow. But then I'm worried we're going to get exposed if this 8 isn't disciplined enough to come back. And today we saw what happens when we sit deep. Because their midfield was allowed the ball. They could push onto us, pushing us back. And don't get me wrong, Blackburn weren't brilliant today. But we had nothing to go back against it. Partly because of fitness levels, partly because of poor performances, if I'm being honest. But partly because we don't have a player in that 8 spot that can get that ball from a 6 and go that way. And we didn't have that today. Njai's come back, his first game, his first started. Clearly needs some fitness. Fine, not an issue. That's all good. But that's where that is. That's where that position is, that situation. So, okay. The other side, McNeil, again, his deliveries are usually okay. There was a few corners today that were ropey. But overall, you know he's got a goal in his locker. You know he can shoot from range. And you know he can pick a pass. But he's not quick enough. So, when you look at those problems... You're sort of struggling to construct a team out of this, and I thought it was obvious today, and we're going to go into these games in America, and I'm not worried, because there's no need to be worried. It's pre-season, but I'd definitely like Everton to be better. The first game's against Bournemouth next Saturday. You're going to talk about an Everton team that's going to fly out Tuesday, Wednesday. If there is going to be a centre midfielder on that on that plane with them, I'd be very happy with that. But I think there's a lot to do. I think there's a lot to do, and there isn't a right winger, and we need one. Seriously need one. Like, today highlighted why we needed one, because not once did Dwight McNeil run on the outside of his man. Not once. And that is a significant problem, because that means there's never going to be any early balls into the box. Everything's going to be run, cut back across that way, which means a striker has to generate power. Whereas, if you're down the byline, cross the ball, you're running onto that ball, so you're hitting that ball. There's so much to do. There is so much to do. So yeah, I think that's what we need. I think I'm not gonna be over happy about the situation, but I'm also not, as you can tell, I'm not deflated. I'm not sad. We just need to get on with it. It was not a great game. We've got to move on. Let's get on with it. We move into tougher teams. If we go to the States and Bournemouth absolutely rifle us, there is a significant issue, because Everton need to be in, if not better than Bournemouth, because Bournemouth were better than us last season. They were saying Bournemouth were here, right? Everton were here. If Everton are going to truly progress this season, Bournemouth might go to there, but Everton need to go to here, and that is the sort of jump that we need to make. And that's what concerns me a touch. So look, I'm not disappointed. I'm not sad. A comment on Blackburn. Look, they were clearly fitter than us, and they were clearly at the races. I thought the lad that they brought on towards the end, was it Kobo? I mean, he looks like a Premier League player. He looks like a Premier League player all day. Pacey, quick, skillful, gets a couple of shots off. He looks a very decent player. But yeah, for me, the standout in that Everton team, it's mad me saying that, he's Harrison Armstrong. Because he came on the pitch with very little time, and although everything wasn't brilliant, everything ended up almost going through him. The opportunities for Justin, the young lad, Justin Clark, it's a through ball from Harrison. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't work, but it's from him. The ball over to the left-hand side where we put a crossing, it comes from him. Winning the ball back down here, it comes from him. So all of a sudden, you've got an 18-year-old player, or whatever old age he is, coming on and sort of being the only person that could do both. And every time he would give the ball, he'd run into the box. And I liked all of those things about him. So for me, look, I try not to give man the matches in, and he literally played 20 minutes. And I'm sure a lot of you would say, it was Mikalenko or Brandt, whoever, it doesn't matter to me. But for just his ability to come on and stamp his authority on the game, I was really impressed with Harrison Armstrong today. Really impressed. But I think that whole team, and David Moyes, the recruitment team, they need to have a meeting tomorrow, Monday, and they need to sit down and go, right, this is what we absolutely need. And if this means players have got to fly out to America, then so be it. Because Everton have got to move quickly on this now. They've got to. It's like Jack Grealish, for example. If Everton are seriously interested in a player like Jack Grealish, there's no point in training on his own at Manchester City. There's literally no point. Just do the deal and get him in with the first team now here at Goodison, at Bramley Moor. Or fly him out to America and he can train with the first team. If that is a thing. Now, I get there's politics, I get there's money and wages and all that stuff you have to iron out with these deals. And I think from rumours, that's the issue with Douglas Luiz. Everton are happy to pay whatever fee that Juventus want, but the guy wants 200 grand a week or something. So, yeah. Look, I don't know. We've just got to spend this week now gearing up this squad for Bournemouth, Man United, West Ham, Roma, and we've got to run into that Premier League season. There is rumours that there's going to be a behind closed door game against Port Vale at Bramley Moor. We predicted it. Me and John predicted it. We actually sat down on the video about 3 weeks ago and said it would definitely happen, because you're not going to be able... The reason why that is happening is because the player... There's all this rubbish about it's happening because the players need to get used to the pitch, and that's partially right. But the other issue is they need another game because they haven't done the signings that they want. So they need to get them playing together quicker. It wouldn't surprise me if there's more than one game and we just don't know about it yet. Or we might not even find out. It wouldn't surprise me if you see the under-23s and the first team playing each other at Bramley Moor before the season starts in a 60 to 90 minute game, literally to get legs in and to get the players used to playing with each other. If it is, new signings, whoever that may be, Metcalf, McAtee, Louise, Greeley, whoever Everton signed. It could be Jack Harrison for all I know. But it has to be that these players are getting used to each other, because today, although those players look used to each other, there's so many gaps. It's so disjointed, and that has to change going into next season, where ambition and aspiration is something different. And the freaking group, by all accounts, they're busy with Roma. They've now got to be busy with Everton. They should have been busy with Everton from around the 1st of July. I'm not saying Everton should have signed all their players, because I don't agree with that narrative, and I never will. There's pre-season tournaments. Players deserve holidays. All of this shit that, if a player wants to sign for Everton, he'll stop his holiday to come back. Look, realistically, Everton finished 14th, 15th in the Premier League last season. I'd get it. If it's the champions of England, you're guaranteed 38 starts and you're playing for every competition and it's your big payday. I get it. But Everton will be seen as a stepping stone to a lot of these players, and in some cases, almost a downgrade. What is the selling point to Douglas Luiz signing for Everton? And this is the bit that I keep talking about. I don't get it. But it needs to happen. Everton have to be attractive, and that takes time. It takes commitment. But I think we could have done more in the last week. We certainly could have done more in the last week. So look, I'm leaving it there. That's the match reaction. There will probably be a debrief. John and Frankie, Millsy and Noah were all at the game today. So make sure you go onto Across the Park podcast and you go and tweet John and whatever and talk about the game. But yeah, not great today. And remember, we are sponsored by Flyers Indoor Golf. Make sure you go to the description below and make sure you get yourself booked in. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. Up the toffees. Peace.